Hello, I'm John McBride. Thank you for joining me today to talk about the Kumano Kodo pilgrimage. Today we visit the Kumano Kodo, a UNESCO World Heritage listed pilgrimage, and I'll extend this visit to the associated pilgrimage sites of Koyasan and the Ise Grand Shrine. First, an introduction. The three sacred sites of Kumano Kodo, Koyasan, and the Ise Grand Shrine are at the heart of Japanese spiritual identity. The Kumano Kodo is open to all, welcoming to everyone, oblivious to gender and class, and has a strong background in nature worship. Natural features in nature are worshipped as abodes of the deities. And there is a strong belief that the local Japanese deities of these rivers, rocks, and waterfalls are manifestations of Buddhas. We will discuss the syncretic nature of Shinto and Buddhism in Japan. Koyasan is one of the two most sacred Buddhist sites in Japan and is the center of Esoteric Buddhism. The other site is Enryakuji Temple on Mount Hiei, northeast Kyoto, which is the center of exoteric Buddhism. And I'll discuss the difference between esoteric and exoteric Buddhism. Koyasan developed simultaneously with Kumano and is linked to Kumano through the Kohechi pilgrimage route, a trail established for commoners. And finally, there is the Ise Grand Shrine, the most important site for Shinto in Japan. And its deity is Amaterasu no Omikami, the sun goddess, and linked to the Imperial family. So where are these three sites located? Just to position you on a map, the three sites are all located on the Kii Peninsula. The Kii Peninsula is the most southerly landmass in Honshu, the main island of Japan. It is south of Kyoto, Osaka, and Nara. The direction south from Kyoto, the ancient capital, has always been an auspicious direction. The emperor faces south towards the sun, and south is the direction of the Buddhist paradise. This is the map, a map of the different pilgrimage routes to Kumano, Ise, and Koyasan, and I'll take you through these carefully. First, the Imperial route to Kumano. The Kiiji is the path taken by emperors and aristocrats departing Kyoto in the 10th to 12th centuries. It extends from the south of the city of Kyoto to Osaka and then down along the west coast of the Kii Peninsula as far as the city of Tanabe, where many pilgrims travel to by train these days to start their walk. The practice of imperial pilgrimage to Kumano began around 900 CE. Transformed into early modern popular tourism, drawing all societal classes by the 1600s, and then received UNESCO World Heritage status in July 2004. From Tanabe City, the Nakahechi route extends along the ridgelines of the Kii Peninsula Mountains, making it an easier walk for the aristocrats and tourist pilgrims today. Nakahechi delivered pilgrims to the three great shrines at Hongu, Shingu, and Nachi. The Iseji, the eastern coastal route from Kumano up to the Ise Grand Shrine, was sometimes used by the aristocrats for their return journey to Kyoto. The Nakahechi route leads to the first of the three great shrines of Kumano, Hongu Grand Shrine, where Susanoo, the Shinto god of storms, came to rule the underworld. After the introduction of Buddhism in the 6th century, he was begun to be seen as a manifestation of Amida Buddha, the Buddha of infinite light. The Hongu Grand Shrine was originally located on a small island in the middle of the Kumano River. A typhoon in 1889 destroyed the shrine, and so 4 of the 13 shrines were moved to their current safer location up on a nearby hill. The Kumano River is the physical manifestation in nature of the Hongu deity. The river is part of the pilgrimage route from Hongu to Shingu, and the ferry journey is the only UNESCO heritage-listed ferry route in the world. Pilgrims alight from the ferry trip at Hayatama Shrine in the city of Shingu. The deity enshrined here is the male creation god of Japan. His name is Izanagi, and he is seen as a manifestation of the Buddhist deity Yakushi, the medicine Buddha. The physical manifestation of the deity and the touchstone of Izanagi's arrival in this location is this imposing Kotobiki Iwa stone and its associated Kamikura shrine. The large Shimenawa rope around the stone indicates that it is an abode of the gods. Worship of the deity was moved down onto the flats of the town at a new shrine, literally Shingu, but this occurred over 2,000 years ago, so it's not so new anymore. And then finally, pilgrims walk down along the coast, or as we'll do up over 2 mountain passes, to the Nachi Shrine and Nachi waterfall, the highest waterfall in Japan at 133 meters, and it's 13 meters wide. In summary, the Kumano deities are highly syncretic. The original ancient Japanese deities are considered manifestations in Japan of the Buddhas of the Asian continent. At Hongu, Susanoo, the god of storms, is considered the manifestation of the Amida Buddha, Buddha of infinite light, popular in the 8th century and prayed to for a better life in the next life. It was not conceivable that this life, which must have been pretty tough, could be better. At Hayatama Grand Shrine, Izanagi, the male creation god, who together with his wife Izanami created the myriad of deities in Japan, is seen as the manifestation of Yakushi, the medicine Buddha, who is prayed to for protection from disease and pestilence. In this pose, which is very common, the right palm faces outward, offering reassurance, while the left rests in the lap or holds a bowl containing healing medicine. You can just see the little medicine pot there. And Izanami is enshrined at Nachi. She is the manifestation of the goddess of mercy, the Senju Kannon Bodhisattva, who busily attempts to save humanity with her many arms and heads. She is prayed to for a better life in this life and was popular through the Heian period, so life got to a point where you could imagine that it could be better in this life. The next route we look at is the Kohechi route from Koyasan to Kumano, and this is the pilgrimage route for commoners. They would first visit Koyasan and then take a direct but more difficult route to Hongu because it was against the ridgelines of the Kii Mountains. The Kohechi route is approximately 70 kilometers long, connecting Koyasan and Hongu, and crosses against 3 major mountain passes, which are all over 1,000 meters, making it a demanding, rugged and remote pilgrimage trail. The route has become popular as the Nakahechi route has become more crowded since the UNESCO heritage listing. So we do find a lot of pilgrims enjoying this route. The Shugendo, or mountain ascetic training route, from beautiful Mount Yoshino, famous for cherry trees, down to Hongu, is known as the Omine Okugake Michi, and is the original training route for Yamabushi, who would train here and then act as guides for Kumano pilgrims. The route is very remote and is technical in places, and should not be undertaken without experience in technical climbing, and you really should have a Yamabushi guide accompany you. That said, it's very beautiful, and there are rewards when you get out of your tent in the cold mornings. There is a bit of what I call vertical walking. This is an image of me waiting my turn on a vertical section of the trail with my walking buddy Craig Modd, whose book I'll talk about shortly. And behind me is our guide. Yamabushi were lay people who undertook this ascetic training to hone their skills in the mountains, and many acted as guides to Kumano pilgrims. Next, a list of references. The definitive book about the Kumano is Professor Koyama's book, Kumano Kodo. Professor Koyama passed in 2005, shortly after his research was used successfully as the basis for the application to UNESCO for World Heritage listing. His research is only available in Japanese, so I provide an English translation and interpretation of Professor Koyama's research at bit.ly/Kumano Pilgrim. Second is the amazing Tanabe City Kumano Tourist Bureau website. All of the resources you need are available here. It's bottom left there. Third is my YouTube channel, Great Walks of Japan. There are extensive further resources about pilgrimage destinations on this channel. If you're looking for a tour company, guided or self-guided, then the absolute best is Walk Japan at walkjapan.com. Outstanding contemporary writing about walking on the Kumano is Craig Modd's book, Things Become Other Things, a walking memoir published by Random House in 2025. And Craig also has an accompanying website at walkkumano.com, very generous with its information. In 2015, I led a group of artists on the Kumano Kodo, Indigenous Australians, Japanese and Italian artists. And our artistic journey is followed on podcast at ABC National Radio, Earshot, River of No Sound, and we'll cross the River of No Sound shortly. And a well-regarded general book on pilgrimage, which I love, is Oliver Statler's Japanese Pilgrimage, published in 1983. Pilgrims Through the Ages, and I draw on Professor Koyama's research for this section. Imperial visits began with retired Emperor Uda's journey along the Nakahechi in 907. After retiring from his throne, Emperor Uda became the first aristocratic priest of Ninnaji Temple in Kyoto, and then 10 years after his abdication, he headed out on the Kumano Kodo. Now, an imperial Kumano pilgrimage was an expensive affair, and being allowed to undertake a pilgrimage was a type of test of the power yielded by the emperor in retirement, or a test of his power exerted from behind the throne. Imperial visits flourished during the 12th century, with Emperor Go Shirakawa visiting 34 times. And then imperial visits declined during the following Kamakura period, 1192 to 1333, and ended with retired Emperor Kameyama's visit in 1281. Kameyama is there on the left. Pilgrimage diaries are extremely important documents which reveal valuable details about Kumano's history from this time, and Professor Koyama translates these diaries. One of the most detailed accounts is of an imperial pilgrimage is described in the diary of the aristocrat Munetada, who travelled to Kumano in 1109. The diary describes exactly the route that we take on the Kumano and includes a visit to the Yunomine hot springs, which we will do as well, where he writes, I bathed in a small ravine where hot spring water surfaces beside the flow of the cold creek, a divine sight indeed. Those who bathe in these waters will be cured of all illnesses. And we'll bathe in these waters as well. Following the imperial visits, Kumano Kodo was made famous among commoners by the itinerant priest Ipen. He founded a Buddhist sect called Jishu, which relied on itinerant walking priests rather than fixed temples. The sect was popular among commoners because it focused on nembutsu, the simple recital of Buddha's name, and often involved joyous dancing. Japan has a wonderful history of illustrated storytelling, and this illustrated record in 12 scrolls of Ippen's life is an outstanding example of a biographical narrative. Ipen first visited Koyasan, and then on the way to Kumano he met the Kumano deity disguised as an old monk. Without knowing that he was the Kumano deity, Ipen Shonin chanted Nembutsu faithfully and tried to give a talisman to this old monk. But the old monk refused to receive it, saying he could not feel the depth of Ippen's faith. Ipen, after the talisman of his faith was refused, visited Kumano Hongu Grand Shrine with a very troubled mind. There he received a revelation from the Kumano deity. As Ipen was praying in front of the main building, the deity appeared as a mountain ascetic Yamabushi, saying, "Salvation of all humans resides in believing in Amida Buddha. You should give over your talisman, regardless of how faithful or faithless, pure or impure other people you meet." When Ipen came to, he found himself surrounded by children who all wanted his talisman. And you can see the clamouring children there, and the Yamabushi with his distinctive black cap on in front of the shrine. Ipen then descended the Kumano River by boat, and this illustration is the major source of information we have about how this river descent was undertaken. The design and the size of today's tourist boats is taken from this illustration. Today, the river flow is controlled by upstream dams, and the flow is very gentle, as you see, but in Ipen's time there were many swift rapids to negotiate. Ipen alighted at Shingu and visited Hayatama Grand Shrine, and this is the location exactly where we get off the tourist boats today, and then he travelled on to the Nachi waterfall. Now, just going back to the Chuyuki diary, remember it made mention of bathing at Yunomine hot springs. During the Edo period, 1603 to 1868, pilgrimage to Ise and Kumano became very popular, thanks to the publication of guidebooks and nationwide proselytizing by Kumano nuns. And this guidebook to the 33 Kannon pilgrimage includes illustrations of the Yunomine hot springs. And the buildings today look very much like the guidebook illustration. Indeed, the very bath where Munetada enjoyed the hot waters of Japan's oldest hot springs still survives. It's called the Tsubono-yu bath. And it's the only UNESCO Heritage listed bathtub in the world. And hot waters still flow naturally out of the base of the cold stream running through the ravine, exactly as Munetada described. The spring festival of Kumano involves fathers bathing with their sons at Yunomine. The children are then carried over the 4-kilometre Dainichi-goe to a mountain pass to the Hongu Grand Shrine. And while they're doing that, the sons must not touch the ground until they reach the sacred compound of Hongu. They're considered deities after they ablute in the hot springs. And you can see the Chinese character for large is painted on their forehead to protect them from illness and to make them strong. In 1619, the Lord of Kishu, today's Wakayama province, his name was Tokugawa Yorinobu, made efforts to reconstruct the pilgrimage trails, shrines and roadside stations, and this accelerated popularity among commoners and led to the crowds being called processions of ants to Kumano. It's a very early development of tourism. People travelled to Kumano to experience the true syncretic form of religion in Japan, the Buddhas manifesting themselves as Shinto deities. Kumano and Koyasan represented the Buddhist Pure Land, and people travelled here to be reborn. Their walking led to convalescence from illness and so-called miracles, which were more likely just the benefits of some exercise and fresh air. And they prayed for fortune in this life. All right, let's have some fun by now virtually visiting all three sites. First to Koyasan. A comfortable express train takes you from Osaka Namba Station to the base of the mountain basin that we refer to in its totality as Koyasan, and this takes about 90 minutes. Along the way, the train passes through Kudoyama, and this is the traditional walking trail entrance to Koyasan. This very enjoyable trail from Jisoin to Koyasan is known as the Choishi Michi. The trail's name comes from the fact that it is lined with steles every cho, or 109 meters. It is 22 kilometers from Jisoin to Koyasan, and the current trail dates to 1285, its completion. The steles are built in 5 sections and represent the physical or womb realm of esoteric Buddhism. The 5 layers you can see represent earth, water, fire, wind, and the universal void. The steles are all numbered, and so it is easy to determine where you are along the walk, and they count down to number 1, which is located in front of the Kompon Daito Great Pagoda. The Sanskrit character used on the steles is Om or A, the primordial sound of the universe, and the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, the first letter of the Japanese alphabet, the A sound. It represents the unity of body, mind, and spirit, and in Shingon Buddhism it's associated with meditation, beginnings, and sacred spaces. And A sound meditations are available at Koyasan Temple lodgings. The Chinese character for number 1, you can see you'll have to study your Chinese characters for all the numbers, and then Cho, 109 meters, about a yard. The Kompong Daito Great Pagoda is depicted in Ipen's scroll, and the compound appears as it does today. Pilgrims normally visit these structures in a clockwise pattern. The Kompong Daito Great Stupa contains a Dainichi Nyorai, the cosmic Buddha of the womb realm or the physical realm, surrounded by 4 Buddhas from the diamond realm or the realm of Buddha's crystal clear consciousness. The pagoda represents the ideals of Shingon Buddhism and is the fundamental great stupa. The Dainichi Nyorai, or cosmic Buddha, is the most important Buddha in Shingon. He is manifested in Japan by the Shinto deity, the sun goddess, the most important Shinto deity. He has 2 mudra, but this one is common. It describes the physical world of the womb realm through the 5 fingers, again representing earth, water, fire, wind, and void. Surrounding or coming together with the index finger, representing the crystal clear clarity of Buddha's consciousness, or the diamond realm. And when these 2 come together, this represents enlightenment. The Miedo Portrait Hall enshrines a portrait of Kukai. The hall and portrait are only open to the public once a year on the 21st of March in the lunar calendar. So usually a day in April. In 2026, I think it's the 7th of May. This is the day that Kukai entered a state of perpetual meditation. He's not considered to have died. This is a copy of the famous image of Kukai. The original exists and is on display once a year. It was painted by one of Kukai's disciples. Now, posthumously, we refer to Kukai as Kobo Daishi, the Grand Master who propagated the Buddhist teaching. He'd spent 2 years in China from 804 to 806, and there he was recognized by the head of Chinese Esoteric Buddhism as the brilliant next head of this sect. Esoteric Buddhism requires induction into the sect and requires a strong relationship with a teacher. Most of the practices are very complicated and secretive. This is compared to exoteric Buddhism, which is the popularized form of Buddhism in Japan, like the Jishu sect of Ipen, which only requires one to repeat Buddha's name, for example, to achieve entry to paradise. Another way to approach Koyasan is to walk on the former women's pilgrimage route, or Nyonin Michi, used by women when they were banned from the inner compound of Koyasan. Unlike Kumano, which has always been open to all gender, women, for over 1,000 years, Koyasan was a male-only monastic site. Religious freedom was ensured by the Meiji government in 1872, but women were still banned at Koyasan until much later, until about 1906. And one story is that a woman called Yoshi-san sat in front of the Kompo Daito Great Pagoda in protest until the male priests had to acquiesce and allow women to live and work in the compound. The women's route is well marked and extends for 16 kilometres. Along the way, the road passes the main gate to Koyasan, Daimon. This version was built in 1705 and is covered in red ochre paint made from cinnabar. which was mined nearby. Indeed, Kukai chose this location for its cinnabar resources, which were a source of funding for the temple. The deep vermilion colour is protective from evil, and the prominent use of vermilion paint on the buildings and gates of Koyasan reflects the local availability of this resource, which was co-located with Mercury. Further along, the road passes the entrance to the huge cemetery of Koyasan, with nearly 200,000 graves. It is called the Okunoin cemetery. Most importantly, it is the location of the mausoleum of Kukai, or as you know, we should refer to him as Kobo Daishi. The Okunoin is full of magnificent graves of the most important warrior and aristocratic families of Japan, and a stroll through the cemetery is like walking through 1,000 years of Japanese history. Note the interesting syncretic use of a Shinto torii gate in front of the Buddhist graves. Finally, one arrives at the mausoleum of Kobo Daishi, and as we cross this river, visitors are asked to remove hats and to take no further photographs past this point. Kobo Daishi is still fed ritually twice a day in the Shojingu ceremony at 6 a.m. and 10:30 a.m., so this is interesting to watch. This ritual has been performed for 1,200 years and is based on the belief that Kukai did not die in 835, but entered a state of eternal meditation or Nyujo, remaining as a living presence. And indeed you feel his presence at this site. There are 51 sub-temples that provide lodgings, and there's a website through which you can book these lodgings, and many of them use booking.com, for example. My favourite is Fukuchi-in because it has a beautiful garden designed by the father of modern Japanese landscape design, Shigemori Mirei, who passed in 1975. And also because it's the only temple to have a hot spring bath. Great to enjoy after all that walking. Shigemori's garden is modern in its use of dynamic coloured gravel and deep rakings in the gravel. Another favourite is Ekoin because it provides a wonderful night tour of the Okunoin mausoleum area in English. All the pilgrims' lodgings allow guests to participate in morning prayers, indeed you're encouraged to, and also to witness the daily gomataki, or ritual burning of votive tablets, which is one of the secretive ceremonies of Shingon. It's really a beautiful ceremony to participate in. Shojin cooking, or Buddhist vegetarian meals, are provided for breakfast and dinner and are delicious. Make sure you try some of the Koya tofu, which is a freeze-dried form of tofu developed in the 13th century. All right, next let's visit the Kumano Kodo. A 3-hour train and bus ride from Osaka through Tanabe City brings you to the important Takijiri Oji, where most pilgrims begin their Nakahechi hike today. Now, there's also a direct bus service from Koyasan on the weekends and in season, so you might consider planning for that as well. The name Takijiri is said to have come from the sound of rushing water where the rapid stream of the Ishibune-gawa River flows into the Tonda-gawa River. The Kumano Kodo Pilgrimage Center at Takijiri-oji distributes maps and provides excellent information about the trail. I would suggest you download your own map from the Tanabe Tourism Bureau website because that will be the most up-to-date map with all the information about diversions and that sort of thing. Entering the center, you are greeted with how pilgrims of the 12th century dressed. There are tables over there on the right where you can enjoy your own lunch or pick up some snacks here before embarking on the first steep climb. Now, the first day, as I've described, usually involves taking transport from Osaka and then just walking 4 kilometers from Takijiri-oji up to Takahara. But as you can see, the ascent is about 500 meters. Over just 1.1 kilometers, so it's a very steep gradient. So the entire walk takes up to 3 hours. I'd planned for 3 hours. The way is very well signposted with distance markers every 500 meters from number 0 at Takijiri to number 74 or 37 kilometers later at Hongu main shrine. Take note that some signs also indicate that you are not on the Kumano Kodo. I've seen tourists faithfully following a sign that says, by the way, this is not the Kumano Kodo. We thank the deity at Takijiri-oji Shrine and off we go. Up the steep incline, past the old Tsurugi Sutra Mount. Now, the burial of sutra texts was popular for 600 years from the 11th century. Buddhism had spread from India using written texts called sutras. In Japan, there were diverse motivations for burying these texts and other religious paraphernalia. Some created sutra mounds to preserve Buddhist teachings for the future, while others buried texts to ensure their rebirth into the Pure Land paradise, to transfer spiritual merit to themselves, or for the repose of the souls of the dead. Kumano was amongst the most popular sites for this practice. There are displays of the contents of these sutra mounds at the Kumano Hongu Heritage Center, including the metal containers for the sutras and the earthen pots in which they were buried. At the top of that very first major incline, there is a lookout where you can take a well-deserved break and enjoy the views over the valley. After almost 3 hours of walking, we arrive at Takahara. First, we visit its beautiful shrine. The shrine's main hall dates to 1403, so it's a very important structure, and it's in the Kasuga style. The Kasuga style is the second most popular style of shrine architecture. The most popular one is called Nagare style. Kasuga style has these ornamental vertical and horizontal poles called chigi and ogi and are covered with cypress bark. The environs of Japanese Shinto shrines are as important as the structures themselves. In Takahara's case, the shrine compound is full of ancient camphor trees, said to be over 1,000 years old. In thanking the deity at the shrine, we are thanking and protecting the surrounding environment. Nearby accommodation is available in Takahara village, and this can all be booked through the Tanabe City Tourism Bureau website. One example is Minshuku Kirinosato Takahara. I mention this just because This was originally built by the city as a condition of the UNESCO heritage listing, but it's now passed into private hands. A minshuku is a simple bed and breakfast inn, but in Japan, dinners are provided as well. Kiri no Sato means village of the mist. And when you wake up in the morning, there's usually mist below the spectacular views from your window. Dinner features fresh local mountain vegetables which the owner picks himself in the surrounding hills. And this is dinner, and of course breakfast is also provided, and they'll make a boxed lunch for you as well for the trail for the next day, which is generally my suggestion is to walk from Takahara to Tsugizakura Oji. And then you can walk down to a bus stop, which is a total distance of 14.6 kilometres. It's more undulating today, although we do get started with another very steep climb, so a little warm-up exercise outside your inn is advised. We soon enter a cedar plantation forest. These trees are Japanese cedar, or they're actually Cryptomeria japonica. Bird life is sadly missing from these monocultural forests as we pass through the plantations, and you'll notice how as soon as we come across mixed forest, it's remarkable how the bird life returns. But we do come across images of a strange three-legged bird, the Yatagarasu, sacred crow. This crow is thought to have guided the first emperor, Jimmu, to victory in Yamato, where he formed the new nation, where Nara and Osaka and Kyoto are located. Yatagarasu is the symbol of the Kumano Kodo. The three legs have many meanings, including representing heaven, earth, and mankind. I have my own interpretation. I like to think of them as the three main routes to Kumano: Nakahechi, Kohechi, and Iseji. Much as the the Camino de Santiago, the scallop shell, which is the symbol of Kumano's sister heritage pilgrimage in Spain, the scallop shell is said to represent the many routes to Santiago. The trail continues. Note the soft edges, so hug the mountainside always. 3.5 kilometres into our walk today, we come across a roadside deity, Koban Jizo. The statue is dated 1854. Jizo is a guardian Buddha, actually a bodhisattva for travellers and children. And Koban is a gold coin. And pilgrims would often carry a gold coin with them in case they died on pilgrimage. And the coin would compensate locals for treating the deceased pilgrim's remains with respect. We arrive just in time for lunch at a wonderful rest area where you can enjoy outside your own boxed lunch or buy some hot noodles and soup. But I do suggest you buy something from the shop, perhaps some mugwort ice cream, my favourite, called yomogi, which is Japanese mugwort. It's a wild herb used in springtime sweets. Think of it as Japan's answer to matcha's earthier cousin. The ice cream tastes herbal, grassy and slightly bitter, but in a very good way. 700 metres along is the famous Gyuba Doji, a boy sitting on a cow and horse. The young boy is Emperor Kazan, who visited Kumano in 986, shortly after he was bamboozled out of his imperial title. He became an itinerant monk later in life and is thought to have encouraged the worship of the Kannon goddess of mercy. You might ask why he is riding a cow on the left and horse on our right. The image of a cow and horse harkens to the tradition of placing these images in the family entranceway during the Obon season, when ancestral spirits are welcomed back into family homes for a few days. Family spirits are encouraged to ride the fast horse back to visit, and then the slow cow when they leave. The slow cow is usually represented by an eggplant on the left, an aubergine, and the fast horse by a cucumber in the entranceway. In the case of Kumano, it might also represent the syncretic nature of worship here, involving Shinto and Buddhism. Before long, we arrive in the village of Chikatsuyu, and you may decide to stay in the village, but even if you do, I encourage you to continue today's walk through to Tsugizakura Oji. Now, this shrine has magnificent environs, and the saving of this forest by Minakata Kumagusu, who was born in Tanabe City, was the start of the earliest of environmental movements of the late 19th century, certainly the earliest in Japan and on a worldwide basis as well. Our walk concludes at the lovely Toganoki Chaya tea house. There's accommodation nearby at the top of the hill, or you can descend the hill a further 1.7 kilometers to more accommodation, or you can take the local bus back to Chikatsuyu and stay in the wonderful Minshuku Chikatsuyu, or onto the accommodation at Yunomine Hot Springs. No matter where you stayed, a public bus will take you in the morning to the start of my suggested walk for the next day, which is from Hosshinmon to Hongu main shrine. And you can see Hosshinmon at the start of this map all the way down to Hongu. And this is a very pleasant 7.5 kilometers. And you can add another 4 kilometers at the end of the day to walk over Akagi-goe to Yunomine Hot Springs. This is the pass that the fathers and kids take. It's a really lovely walk as well. Hosshinmon Oji is one of the 4 important gates to the sacred area, the final sacred area of Kumano. It encourages pilgrims to Buddhist faith and is indicative of the syncretic nature of Kumano. The trail down to Hongu is generally downward and gentle, which is very welcoming. Lunch can be enjoyed at the small rest house just below Fushiogami Oji. The lovely ladies there don't mind if you eat your own boxed lunch here, but they also have some food for sale, and I suggest you buy something there, such as their delicious shiso juice. Red shiso juice is a refreshing herbaceous beverage popular in Japan all year, but particularly in the summer. It's made from red shiso leaves. Shiso is a type of perella, often referred to as Japanese basil or purple mint, and the leaves are simmered to create a syrup that turns a vibrant magenta when combined with an acidic ingredient like lemon juice or rice vinegar. Now, the steps up to Fushiogami Oji are directly in front of the rest house, and at the top of the steps is a monument to the mid-Heian period or 11th century female poet Izumi Shikibu, and her poem penned here is beneath unclear skies, my body obscured by drifting clouds, I am saddened that my monthly obstruction has begun. Now, she realizes that she cannot defile Kumano by visiting this day because of her period. However, the Kumano deity replies to her in a dream. How could the god who mingles with the dust suffer because of your monthly obstruction. Even deities suffer from impurities. So who am I to judge who and who cannot worship? So in essence, it means come as you are. Anyone is welcome in Kumano, regardless of gender and class. In another 20 minutes, we come across my favourite milepost. It stands at the intersection of the Kohechi route, the commoner's route from Koyasan. And so it indicates that to the right is Koyasan with a distance, and to the left is the continuation of the 33 Kannon pilgrimage of Saigoku and its second temple, Kimi-dera temple. Our undulating walk continues, and a side road takes us up to our first spectacular glimpse of Oyunohara and the Hongu Grand Shrine area. This is quite a moving sight as we glimpse our destination for the first time. Oyunohara is a small island at the confluence of the mighty Kumano River and its tributary, the Otonashi River, or the River with No Sound, which is the name of my podcast. The river indeed runs with almost no sound due to an accumulation of sand. It's a sacred river, a place of deep silence, believed to be inhabited by the deities of Kumano, and crossing it was believed to purify the spirit before visiting the main shrine. The shrine stood proudly in the deep, tall forest of the island, and constant flooding, which was a good thing, kept the small shrubs at bay and encouraged the growth of this imposing forest. Again, the environs were just as important as the religious structures. However, in 1889, it was partially destroyed by a huge typhoon and flood, and the timbers that survived were used to create 4 of the original 13 shrines up at their current safe site on the hillside in 1891. The Kumano Hongu Taisha pavilions are an outstanding example of Japanese shrine architecture. The use of natural unfinished materials allows them to blend effortlessly into the natural environment. Intricate joint works are used in the construction instead of nails. The thick roof, which is all hundreds of layers of thin sliced cypress. The roof sweeps gracefully forward, extending over the stairs and the area in front of the shrine. Again, the verandas were used by the pilgrims to sleep. And it's made entirely of hinoki, Japanese cypress bark. And what I really like is that unique to the building is this space or corridor under the verandas of the pavilions, where in the past the pilgrims and ascetics would use these areas for meditation, writing out sutras, even for sleeping quarters. The Torii Gate down at Oyunohara is the largest in Japan. The island still has this deep feeling of spiritual resonance, with the crows often circling above the fine forest. Perhaps one of them has 3 legs. And then pilgrims would next travel down the Kumano River to Shingu. This journey is about half the distance today, from a port about halfway down to Shingu, but you still alight right next to Shingu's Hayatama Grand Shrine. So the next day of our walk begins a long 2-day hike to Nachi waterfall, and It takes you over 2 mountain passes. Day 1 is a very pleasant 16 kilometers with 670 meters of elevation gain over Kogumotori-goe Pass, or the small cloud catching pass. We are rewarded with fine views out over the Ki mountains. Along the way is a place of prayer for children and pilgrims who passed. Over the centuries, small stones have been lovingly stacked here to memorialize them, evoking the Buddhist image of Sai no Kawara, the riverbank between worlds, where Jizo, the Bodhisattva Jizo, guardian of travelers and children, offers compassion and salvation. The trail continues over old paving, some of which dates back to the Edo period. The tea houses along the way would cobblestone the route themselves, hoping that out of gratitude, pilgrims might linger and pay for some tea and rice cakes. The day's trail is almost at an end when we reach Sakurajaya Tea House. This is usually at about 2 p.m. The tea house remains overlook our destination of Koguchi. The tea house operated until 1912, and today it's a perfect location for afternoon tea. The owners in 1912 said that they used to hurry to make rice cakes and tea when they saw pilgrims in white down in Koguchi. Our inn for the night is on an island in the Akagi River, which you can just see, a little bit difficult. So when you get to the inn, the owner will often, if it's a hot day or you're still hot after the walk, recommend a safe swimming location. The waters are very cold. The main accommodation on the island is the Shizen no Ie, which was a junior high school abandoned in 1982. Since the UNESCO Heritage Listing in 2004, it has provided accommodation for pilgrim tourists. It has 13 rooms using the old classrooms, and the dining room is where the school children used to have their school lunches. It's a really delightful place to stay. The classrooms are now very comfortable tatami matted rooms with futons, and the meal is substantial and gets you ready for the toughest day of the Kumano, from Koguchi to the Nachi waterfall. Now, the distance is just 14.5 kilometers, but it is a class 4 walk because of the elevation gain. A steep 1,260 meters, but it's even a more brutal on the knees elevation loss of 930 meters. We do need to get up early for a 6:30 a.m. breakfast, which the inn is happy to provide, and a packed lunch, and a 7 a.m. start. You really need to be out the door at 7 a.m. And we launch immediately into a climb called the Body Severing Slope. Although, as you see, the first few sections there are some flatter areas through both plantation and mixed forest, enjoying some classic Kumano scenery. The Body Severing Slope, it does feel a bit endless. So if you're in a group, it's good to just go slowly and stay together, because if you arrive quickly at the top, you can chill very easily, and you still have to wait for your group to regroup. Now, a little trick is that on the other side of the pass is the Jizo Jaya Tea House with a bathroom, and just out of sight is actually a enclosed area where you can rest out of the weather. Some pilgrims at Koguchi decide to order a taxi the night before and take a taxi to this location, so you can have a slower start, and it makes for a much easier day. A late lunch is usually enjoyed at Funami Oji, literally the ship sighting shrine, with old tea house ruins. We get our first glimpses of the Pacific Ocean side of the Kii Peninsula. So we've now traversed the peninsula. Congratulations. Before the long descent, hard on one's knees, unless you have walking poles, we start to glimpse as our reward the Nachi waterfall. And Nachi Grand Shrine, if you recall, the shrine is dedicated to the female creation god, Izanami. And next door, because she's considered a manifestation of the Buddhist god of mercy, Kannon, she is deified next door at the Seigan Toji temple. This temple was established very early in the 4th century by an Indian priest, Ragyo. But for us, its current hall was built in 1590, with some major repairs in 1925. So very important structure to enjoy. We finish our pilgrimage by making our way up the coast on the Iseji to the Ise Grand Shrine. The extraordinary thing about the Ise Grand Shrine is that it is completely rebuilt every 20 years. And this process is called Shikinen Sengu, and it has continued for over 1,300 years. The 63rd Shikinen Sengu is scheduled for 2033. The first rite for the rebuild was conducted in May 2025. So it takes about 8 years to build an exact copy of the existing structure on the neighbouring plot of land, backwards and forwards, using the best hinoki or Japanese cypress of the land. That said, Shikinen Sengu is known for its careful, sustainable use of timber and the recycling of all of the precious timber which is removed from the old site, seen here on the right. The process symbolizes renewal, which is important to Shinto, but it also supports all of the carpentry skills and myriad of other related skills associated with renewing everything in the shrine, including implements used in ceremony, even the clothing of the priests. I've managed to see the past 2 Shikinen Sengu in 1993 with my tea master, with whom I saw the building on the right as a fresh brand new building, and then again in 2013 with my closest friends when the structure that I'd seen on the right as a brand new building had patinaed with the passage of 20 years and was looking, as you see on the right there, and we saw the new structure which stands today. By the time we saw this view, my tea master had passed, and so the existence for a brief moment of the completed 2 buildings, it reminds one of the passage of time, and 20 years is almost a generation of passing in time. The Ise Grand Shrine is at the end of the Iseji from Kumano, and there are many fine walking trails on the Iseji, which I describe on my YouTube channel. It is serviced comfortably from Osaka, Kyoto and Nagoya by private Kintetsu line and by JR from Kumano. The main entrance to the Ise Inner Shrine, which is dedicated to the sun goddess Amaterasu no Omikami, is the Uji Bridge, crossing the Isuzu River. Now, at Ise Grand Shrine, the direction of foot traffic is traditionally fixed. The confusing thing is that the left side is used at the outer shrine, Geku, and the right side is used at the inner shrine, which is Naiku, which is this bridge. One theory states that this indicates a spirit of modesty. It's said that as a sign of reverence towards the deities, worshippers customarily walk on the side of the approach that is farther from the main sanctuary. So you're embodying a spirit of humility. Now, you often see an ablution basin called Mitarashiba at Shinto shrines, where you ablute by washing your hands and your mouth out before approaching the shrine. At Ise, the Isuzu River is actually the ablution place. The shrine architecture here is Shinmei Zukuri, one of the oldest and most austere styles of Shinto shrine architecture. It's characterized by straight, unpainted cypress timbers, raised floors, a simple rectangular plan, and this beautiful thatched roof, topped again with the chigi and ogi. Decorative, but in the original rice granary storage buildings would have been structural. They would have weighted down the roof. But overall, the style avoids ornamentation, reflecting ideas of purity, timelessness, and renewal. And it's closely linked to ancient rice granary architecture, which emphasizes Shinto's deep connection to agriculture, nature, and the cyclical regeneration of life, hence this interest in renewal. The Iseji Road is bustling close to the inner shrine. Pilgrims in the Edo period would walk to the shrine as pious, quiet pilgrims, but following their visit, they would let their hair down and have some fun in the shops and inns along the highway here. My favourite place is to stop at Akafuku, established in 1707 in the Edo period, and they serve delicious rice cakes with the sweet red bean paste applied to the outside of the pounded rice cake, not the inside as usual. And you can enjoy them while sitting out looking over the Isuzu River. Now, you must not miss the Sengu-kan Museum. This is located near the outer shrine, which is near the main train station. And it very well describes the Shikinen Sengu, the 20-year rebuilding process, including, for example, the natural dyes used to colour the silk, which is used in all the fabrics required for dressing both the shrine buildings and the priests. So please don't miss that museum and indeed the inner shrine. And finally, there are many modern hotels near the outer shrine, around the main train station. You might also consider staying at the beautiful Ise-shima, which is out on the coast. But my absolute favourite is, of course, an Edo period inn, Asakichi Ryokan, established in 1782. Now, opposed to a minshuku, a ryokan is a formal inn where your bedding is laid out for you, for example. In the tatami matted rooms, and you see the bedding just on the left bottom side there. And of course, an excellent dinner and breakfast are provided. To conclude, I would like to compare Kumano with the Western experience of pilgrimage, particularly the 11th century experience of Cluny near Paris, about the same time that Kumano was having its heyday with the aristocrats. In Cluny, the Benedictine monks made a massive effort to educate the laity of Europe, who were woefully ignorant of Christianity. They did not attempt to teach lay people the complicated doctrines of the church. Instead, they sent them on pilgrimage, which under the aegis of Cluny became a hugely popular activity. While they travelled to their holy destination, to Rome or to Santiago, our heritage listed twin pilgrimage, the only two in the world, or perhaps to some other local shrine, lay men and lay women had to live for a time like monks. The pilgrims turned their backs on their normal lives and lived a communal life. They prayed together. The hardships of the journey were a form of asceticism, and they were celibate for the duration of the pilgrimage and were forbidden to fight or bear arms. And the experience was designed to transform their behaviour in such a way that they would intuit the deeper meaning of Christian faith. And this also describes very well our 11th century Kumano Kodo. And it's wonderful that it is available for us to enjoy as tourists today. And thank you for your participation in this talk.